Today I'm going to teach you the secret to making millions of silver in Albion Online without grinding, though there is some initial grinding required, or card swiping, or just having lots of silver in general. You can't simply just make a new account and make millions of silver without grinding. That's impossible. But it is possible that once you have everything set up and everything rolled out, that you can make millions of silver without grinding. And I'm going to teach you the process for you to discover that yourself. So no, I'm not going to tell you exactly the things that I do in order to make millions without grinding, but I'm going to teach you the process that I went through to learn and discover and figure out and research what I needed to do to essentially make millions without grinding. Now, what do I mean by that? It boils down to crafting. Yes, crafting is the secret sauce of making millions and billions of silver in Albion Online without actually grinding unless you want to. And so here's the beans. So here is what I set out to do. This was my goal back in the day, and I did achieve it, and I've shared it with 7 people, and I swore to never share it with anyone else unless they all agree that I can make it public. But essentially, this is it. This is the secret to finding out the best ratio. The secret sauce is finding out the best ratio of your focus to silver to time. And what do I mean by that? So you get 10,000 focus per day when you have premium active. This is how you craft things and get a return on your crafts. You also want to figure out what it is you can craft every single day for each point of focus to make as much silver as possible. But you also want to do this while taking up as little amount of your time as possible. And a lot of people don't realize this. There are crafters out there that make like 300 million a month or 225 million a month, and they spend 12 hours a day doing it. Congratulations, you make a lot of silver. I make about 2 to 5 million silver per day, and I do it in a few minutes. So at the end of the day, they're spending 12 hours a day, I'm spending 2 minutes, and yes, they do make more than me, but if I have all that free time to do other things like actually enjoy the game or play other games or do anything I want. And that's the real secret to making millions. Completely as fast as possible with no effort, no risk, no anything. So I'm going to teach you today how to figure out how to do this. First, let's go over the zero risk strategy. So I wanted a way to make silver in this game with as little to no risk as possible, be it from PvP or the market. So here's the things that I considered. Shop stalls costing too much. This means when you go to craft in town at a shop stall, that all the stalls, the mafia, what are they called? The conglomerate, the cartel. Yes, the cartel. They raise all the prices unanimously, and then you're just priced out of the market. And because I don't own a shop stall and I'm not friends with a cartel member, I don't get to share in the cheap prices. So I simply have to just wait until they decide to lower the prices, and they will only lower the prices when they have made their money, meaning I wouldn't make any money. So I had to find something to do that doesn't rely on a shop stall, preferably, or something I could just use on my own shop stall on my own island, which is a way to do it, but you don't craft at a bonus. You don't get those bonus resources back if you aren't using a shop stall in town. So this one's really hard to avoid. The second one was transporting from black zone hideouts. Okay, I don't want to join a guild. I don't want to suck on the toes. And I definitely don't want to ever transport expensive items from a black zone hideout to the Royals and then sit there and wait for them to sell, which could take days to weeks to sell. Also, there's been a time, number 3, where the economy has completely flooded with items. Imagine you're an 8.4 weapon crafter and you craft an 8.4, battle axe. Well, imagine like 100 people did the same thing. Now there's 100 of them on the market and you're constantly undercutting each other and paying that ridiculous tax. You would just be bankrupt. Also, item nerfs. You don't want to be all eggs in one basket kind of guy where the one thing that you're really good at crafting and makes a profit from is nerfed, because once it's nerfed, no one will pay for it and no one will pay premium price for it. Every time there's a weapon nerf, the prices just nosedive. And also lack of interest. There are certain items in the game that people simply do not care about and they will not use. For instance, a lot of the just crappy quarterstaffs. There's a lot of weapons in this game that people just don't care about and will refuse to use because there's just better options. Next up is whales sucking up all the resources. This happens from time to time. Someone card swipes or someone insanely rich buys out the entire market of raw materials. Meaning, if you don't have those raw materials, you can't craft the item, and then you're just stuck with nothing. And lately, the cartel has been doing this. They'll take all the raw materials and refine it, and then relist it at a ridiculous price that everyone has to pay for, and that's the new price. They set the price, and now that you craft with those items, the items that you're selling, well, there's thousands of them on the market already, and they're not suddenly going to jump up in price. No, they're readily available. So you're just stuck holding the bag. This happens all the time. Next up is bots ruining the prices. This is kind of the opposite, where there's so many bots, and they're harvesting so many resources that the resources keep going down and down and down in price, which means the items crafted from the resources take a nosedive as well, meaning that the items that you are good at crafting with and that you spent your months or hundreds of millions of silver grinding for to be able to craft are now worthless. And this has happened a few times. You know, back in the day, I was a bow crafter, and bows just nosedived way back like 2 years ago because of all the bots, and it never truly ever recovered from what it used to be. But, that's just one niche in many. Next up is Caerleon and Brazilian Reliance. If you have to craft these items in Caerleon or Brazilian to make a profit, as in there is a crafting bonus, like for instance, Brazilian has potions and Caerleon has food. Luckily for those two items, if you craft outside of those cities, you still make a profit on them, and more on that later. So, but like for instance, in Bridgewatch, if you craft curse stabs, you get a bonus. So if you craft them anywhere else, you're just crafting at a loss. You have to go to Bridgewatch to craft curse stabs, otherwise you can't compete with the curse staff market. So, again, that's a risk. Next up is buying and sell orders being just over competition. Is the thing that you're crafting have thousands of people crafting the item, but no one's buying them? Well, then you have to undercut everyone else that's also going to undercut everyone else. And for sell orders, is the materials that you need to craft your item readily available and often found and sold to sell orders? If they aren't, then you're going to sit there for weeks waiting for someone to sell you that rare artifact so you can craft your rare bow or whatever, and you're just going to be wasting time, spinning the wheels, making no money. Finally, number 8 is really rare, but it's something I did consider, is what if everyone quit the game? Or what if they just took away the markets one day? Could the item that you craft be used by your character, right? So this one's pretty rare. Like, if you're a sword crafter and you don't use swords, why are you crafting swords, right? Whereas potions and food are used by everybody. I use food and potions. Everyone uses food and potions every single day that they play. Even new players use these items. So those are kind of safe. They're zero risk. You see where I'm going with this? So step number 2 is the cost to enter the market you're interested in. This is something you have to figure out doing tons of math before you even begin your crafting journey. So let's talk about that. Number 1 is the absolute cost to max out your mastery and specialization of your crafting niche. Now I'll tell you right now, to max out cooking back in the day, it was 111 million. That means level 100 in all cooking skills, 111 million silver. The cost to max out potion crafting back before the new potions were added, around the same amount, maybe a little bit more. I think 157 million the last time I did it is how much that cost. However, with the introduction of these new potions, the cost is in the billions. So I have to wait a couple years until the materials are cheaper. I literally cannot max out. I mean, I could, but it would be at a ridiculous cost I would never make back. So that's something to consider, right? If I wanted to be a bow master craftsman, well, to max out every single bow, there's just not enough materials on the market. It would take 6 months of buy orders to be able to get the amount to make everything level 100, and unless I'm just buying bows and studying them, and that costs way too much, right? I wouldn't make any of my money back. So it would cost well over 750 million silver to enter the bow crafting market, right? That's just something you have to consider. Number 2 is the cost to craft an X amount of items per day, depending on what you're crafting and how much focus it costs, and at what price it costs to do that. If you want to craft 8.4 items, you can, but if it's costing you hundreds of millions of silver a day, then you might not sell those items for a couple weeks. You're going to be broke. All right, so number 3 is the sales volume of items. This is important too. If only one guy is buying an 8.4 item every 2 weeks, then you should only be crafting one item every 2 weeks, right? And that's assuming that you even get the sale and someone doesn't undercut you at the right moment and then they get the sale. Whereas if you're crafting something that's being sold by hundreds of thousands, or being bought by hundreds of thousands of players, or hundreds of thousands of times per day, then you got a good little market there. You can craft, an X amount of items and fulfill the market's demands. Number 4 is the daily profits. So here's the thing with number 4. If your crafting niche, when you do the math, is not making you more than 500,000 silver a day, don't do it. And the reason why is you can just grow crops for completely free and make that amount of money. So if you're making less than 500k a day crafting, and I know so many people that do, and they gloat about it like they're awesome, and they're just throwing their focus away, they are wasting their focus, supplementing a market that is not for them. They are essentially using their focus at a loss. So number 5 is the difficulty or expensiveness to max returns. So let's go into that. How difficult is it to make this item? You have to travel to a black zone hideout, have the proper things, feed the damn stations. That's another thing. When you craft on your own stations or a black zone hideout station, you gotta feed them. And then you have to transport it back, and then you gotta list it and undercut it constantly. That's difficulty. Or expensive. Is it expensive to max your returns? You have to upgrade a certain item to excellent quality. Well, that's, hundreds of thousands of silver that you have to spend on a gamble every single time you craft. And you could maybe craft at a profit, most likely a loss, depending on how the math goes. Again, is the math itself difficult? Is when I say expensive, time is expensive. If you're having to travel to 5 different cities every single day on a mammoth, by ordering from one city, transporting to another, refining there, transporting that on another alt character, that's your entire freaking day. That's expensive in terms of time. Maybe not so much silver. Sure, you can look at some streamers who are making billions a month on doing refining, right? But they're spending 12 hours a day to do it, so therefore it is expensive when it comes to time. And we don't want that. So step number 3 is about competition and competitors. Like, how many do you have? And there's a lot of factors and ways to figure this out on your own without actually being social, okay? The first one is look at sales volumes of the item that you're crafting. How many are being sold every day? And when you look at buy orders, is the price going up or is the price going down? For instance, poison potions. This is a business that I'm doing. And essentially, when I look at the prices of poison potions, are there more people buying than selling? If that's the case, hey, it's going to get more expensive, all right? Whereas if there's more people selling than buying, oh no, people have dumped their product and they're waiting for it to sell. This is a bad market. The next one is it easy? Is it an easy niche? Ease being ease of crafting, ease of doing the math, ease of transporting, all that kind of fun stuff. The easier it is, the more people will do it. And so the more competition you'll have. You could list your items and then, 5 minutes later, someone's listed the same items cheaper. Now no one's going to buy yours. Why would they? Also, are the materials easy or hard to acquire? This is also important. The harder it is to get the materials, the less competition you will have in your niche. And I don't mean harder as in you got to go do a raid boss or something. I mean harder as in, is it more expensive? Is it cheaper? Is it higher tier? Is it lower tier? These are things to consider for competition's sake. Also, can a whale in your entire niche, can someone who has a lot of money in the real world card swipe, buy all the things that you're buying, list them for cheaper than you're listing, and then eventually just run you out of the market completely? Even though you may not have a lot of competitors, if you just have one wealthy competitor, will that end your ability to sell the item? Whereas, again, with the 8.4 items, if there is just one guy devout to be the guy that makes battle axes, and you decide to try to sell yours, and he's online 20 hours a day undercutting you, and he has infinite money, you will never be able to sell that battle axe, because he will always sell his cheaper, and he has access to all of the items to craft the battle axes, more than you do. You simply cannot compete with someone that is rich in the real world. Don't even try. And here's the thing, though. Let's say a really common item, like pork pies. The gathering food all the bots use. Those things are that's a hard market to niche someone out of. A whale could try to buy out all the food in the game, and relist it, and there's just too many people buying it for one whale to control every city. It'll never happen, right? Can a nerf ruin it? If you only craft bows and there's suddenly a heavy bow nerf where they just remove bows from the game. Imagine this. Let me give a really good example. Okay, so back in the day, there was a weapon called the Black Hands. These were a punching glove weapon which was on the dagger tree. It was the #1 weapon for corrupted dungeons. It got completely removed from the game and replaced with the Bloodfang dagger. I forget the dagger's name, but it's a really stupid dagger that it has niche uses. If you were a Black Hands crafter, that nerf ruined your market forever. Yes, it did translate into the new dagger, but the market's never recovered, man. Like, oh man, that item just got deleted from the game. So if a nerf can ruin your crafting market niche, it is in danger. That is a risk. Also, are you able to do the math required in a reasonable amount of time? There are crafters that will sit there on their spreadsheet for like 6 hours until they're like, yes, I can make a 2% profit today. Do you want to spend 6 hours of doing math homework and crunching numbers and looking at your computer screen just to make a 2% profit of 20 million, which would be like maybe, I don't know, 200,000? Something stupid like that, right? You don't want to do that. You're competing with yourself and your time. So step number 4 is a very important one, and this one is eliminating as much costs to your crafting profession as possible. You don't want to have to be buying stuff from other people. That's the main thing. You want to be completely self-sufficient in your crafting endeavors, but you also don't want to spend a bunch of time doing that either. If it's worth your time to do it yourself, great. If you can save time by buying the things that you need, that's even better, because time is money, essentially, right? So, number 1, you want to check the buy order to sell order differential. In this case, like, let's say you need leather to craft a leather armor. You could just buy the leather for 100 silver, or you can buy order it for 99 silver and wait. Are you really going to just save 1 silver per leather to save a few pennies? I mean, you should, absolutely, but in that case, you just buy it and then you craft it, right? That's a pretty bad example, but you get where I'm going, I hope. The next one is, can you use alt characters to grow, refine, or make the ingredients that you're using on your crafter? For instance, I have 100 Albion Online characters. 100. And a lot of them are potion crafters, but even more of them are crop growers. Granted, I can't even do this anymore because the damn cost of premium is too high. This number has to be below 15 million for me to do that again. I can't do that anymore, but I used to. And that's what, where I talked about the dangers of, being a crafter. But essentially, can you use alt characters without incurring a loss of time or money to make the ingredients yourself? Otherwise, you have to buy them, right? Can you afford to have alts to refine the materials? If you need to refine materials, you cannot use your crafter to do that and still profit, because you will be spending focus to refine the materials, and you'll be spending focus to grow the materials or ingredients. So can you afford to have those alts? In the case of my potion crafters, due to the cost of premium, I could not. And that's just the reality of things. Next up is, do you have the island space to grow the items? Islands have become insanely expensive recently as of the last patch. They made it 8 times more expensive than it used to be. So if you're a legacy player, if you've been playing for a long time, you're a veteran, you probably have the island space. But as a new player, you might not have the island space. And what this means is that you're going to have to incur a silver loss for a long time until you make that up with your profits to be even. And only then will you see profits. So, does your niche or crafting require lots of island space for laborers and crop growing and all that stuff, farm animals, whatever it is you do? You have to consider this. And you need to eliminate as much of the cost as possible. Do you have... let me talk about number 4 some more here. The island space thing. I was talking to a guy, and his niche was he grew cows. This guy was obsessed with cows. He was like, cows make me all the money I need. And I was like, great, that's cool. How many islands do you have? He had like 200 islands. That's crazy, right? And I was like, well, so do you not have premium? He didn't have premium, and he milked the cows. He butchered them sometimes, depending on the market. And I asked him how long did he spend doing this every day, and he said about 14 hours. He spent 14 hours, and each cow was only making him a profit of 10,000 silver. And I don't know how many cows you can fit on an island. I think it's 4 per square, and there's like 12 squares. So let's do 200 times 12 times 4 times 10,000 silver. So no, that's not right. That math is way off. That's wrong. But he was spending like his way too much time on such little profit margins. I mean, yeah, he did make silver, but he was grinding in his own way. This video was about making millions without grinding. You want to be able to snap your fingers and in 2 to 5 to 15 minutes have at least a couple million, maybe 5 million, sometimes 10 million. That's what my goal is, to teach you how to figure it out today, right? So, number 5, do you have laborers to min-max your craft? So, if you craft any kind of armor or weapon, or a few other things, you will need laborers to fill journals, to get those journals, to get some of your refined materials back. This does not apply to potions and cooking, by the way, just to let you know. Number 6, do you have the free time to even do this? If you have to constantly work and you have family and real life matters to attend to, you can't be, managing your player-owned shops, your refining stations, your 50 million farms, your 20 alt characters. You don't have the time for it. So, again, we want to eliminate time. We want to be time efficient. We don't want to be grinding something when we can just grind something else, right? We don't want to be grinding at all. So if you don't have the time to do it, then you would have to grind, and that defeats the purpose of the video. And so, taking those 4 steps into consideration, this is what I did. I simply opened my Destiny board, went over to the crafting side, and one by one, I did the math. And this character, obviously, he's a potion crafter, but hey, every time the bad things happen, like the market shifts or dies, you gotta do it again on a different character, because you don't want one character to be able to craft everything. That's a huge waste of focus. So, you start here with the plate boot crafter, and then you go to each single one of these, with each of the enchantment levels, quality levels, tier levels. It's a lot of math. It's going to take, it's a lot of homework. You're going to spend like 16 hours a day doing this for a very long time. And then you have to cross-reference the markets and do a whole lot of scribbling down and spreadsheeting and stuff. And you're doing those 4 steps every single time. So let's do one together. Okay, let's pick soldier boots. All right, just a quick, reference here. Soldier boots, you only need steel bars. Okay, cool. So now I have to figure out the math of refining steel bars from, ores. I have to figure out the cost of the ores, how much focus and how much of these I can refine on a refining alt that's maxed out. So I have to figure out the cost of making an alt for maximum refining. Once that's done, then I need to figure out which cities, I can buy the bars cheaply or make them myself cheaply. I have to figure all that mess out. Then I have to figure out, which city is the best cities to craft the soldier boots in, which I don't remember at the moment, but I could check pretty quick. Then I have to figure out which city is the best city to sell the damn boots in, and how often they sell, and if it's even worth selling, that's another thing too. And it might not even just be the soldier boots. It could be like a 5.3 outstanding, Duskweaver boots. But hey, this has a rare ingredient that may not be available. I have to check, weeks worth of sell and buy order histories in every city to make sure this thing is always available for when my character has focus. You have to do this on every single craftable item in the entire game. Or you just craft food or potions. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to save you a little bit of math there. It's a little bit easier to do the math on food or potions, okay? Because food and potions are used by every single character. Food and potions only have a crafting bonus in Caerleon and Brazilian. Food and potions I believe, don't get a big crafting bonus from the Black Zone hideouts. They're easier to transport. They're safer to transport if you need to transport them. They're relatively cheap to craft usually. You can grow your own ingredients with crafting alts. Let's pick a random food. You still have to do the math. But let's pick a random food. Let's say I want to be a potato salad chef. So all I need is a character that specifically grows potatoes and a character that specifically grows cabbage. Except when I do the math, even with a maxed out character that can grow these things, the cost of premium is more than what I get from growing them myself. So that's out. So I have to figure out the cost of potatoes, 260. That was easy. The cost of cabbage, 273. That was easy. Okay, so I need 72 of each of those. That's simple enough. So then I take, what was it, 270, times 72. That's 20K. 20K, times 2, 40K, whatever. And then I have to see how much focus it costs to craft a potato salad. And then I have to compare. I have to do that same kind of math on every single food item and every single enchantment level. And then whichever one makes me the most silver for the least amount of focus is the winner. And I only have to do that. Like, here's how I do it on my chef characters, right? For my chef characters at the start of the month, I do the math. And whichever food item wins, that's all I bother crafting for that month. There you go. And then for my potion crafters, it's the same thing. So I go to every single potion possible to craft in the game, and I check out, which ones are selling, which ones aren't. I'll tell you right now, like poison potions, they sell by the hundreds of thousands all over the game every single day. Whereas this gathering potion, they don't sell as often, right? Let's just pick another random potion here, like energy potions. People don't really buy a lot of energy potions. It's not in anyone's build. There's not really a real reason that people buy these. So, I can just X that one off my list of math required to do. But I will do the math on every single craftable item for potions, and then, figure out the cheapest possible way to craft it. So let's go with invisibility potion. Let's say I have a character for Ghoul Yarrow. They can grow that. Oh wait, can't grow anything. Premium's too high. I gotta buy this stuff. Okay, so I have to figure out which city has the cheapest sell orders for Ghoul Yarrow, Mullion, Teasel, Milk, and Moonshine. Oh wait, I have a character that can refine Moonshine. Boom, that's done. Easy, right? And I just go from there. And then again, whichever one makes me the most silver for the least amount of focus for that month is what I craft. Some people do this math every day, and then they craft the big money maker. I do it once a month, and then just, it may not be the most profits, but I will never craft at a loss by doing that. Because food and potions do not crash. Whereas if let's say I did it with bows, what is this, Skinner garb? Let's say I figured out this Skinner garb is the best thing to craft, like a tier 6 Skinner garb or something, right? Let's say that's what I decided to craft. Well, in the middle of the month, this could be crash due to all the other risk factors that I talked about earlier in the video. Potions still have a risk factor, and food does still have a risk factor, but not nearly as much. There's not as much to worry about. There's not as much math to do. So instead of spending 12 hours a day refining on 200 different characters, owning 6 shop stalls, and having a Black Zone hideout guild where I have to craft very specific things on very specific parts of the month because there's going to be a big war and a lot of people are going to die and lose their gear, and they'll have to rebuy the gear. I don't have to worrying about any of that stuff, and I just said worrying about twice. But when I do the food and potions, I just make the food, make the potion, zug brain, log in, craft the item, burn through the focus, log out. I'm done for the day. And it's that simple. You have to do the math. I've taught you all the risk factors and all the kind of math that you need to do. You got this, bro. And I'm not saying that not craft weapons or armor. It's just much more difficult, time consuming, and I consider it a grind on its own. Whereas food and potions, not so much. Anyway, have fun figuring out which food or potion sells for the most. Get those levels up, and enjoy your free profits, bros. If you made it this that far, congrats. You've won. You technically just won Albion Online. What this means is that your crafting alts are just money printers at this point. You log into them for a few minutes a day. You do your thing, you sell the product, you mule the money over to your Swole Benji character, that's me, and then you can just spend it on whatever the hell you want. I mean, look at this. I have a chest with 700 million and 84 items and other junk. Here's a chest with 396 million of stuff that I almost never touch. 21 million in that one, 178 million in that one of stuff. I don't use carving sword. I use this once, I think, and I've never touched it ever again. And I don't even have swords leveled. I have carving sword leveled. Why not? But you get the idea. You can just splurge on stupid crap and not give a crap about having to swipe your card or pay for premium or pay real money for anything ever again. And there you go. That's the secret to making millions without grinding. Thank you so much. Please leave a like on the video. This is the video that people will try to downvote to hide so that no one else gets the secret, right? If you have any questions in the comments section, please let me know, but I will not answer questions that require me to do the math for you. I get asked all the time, what should I make for money? And I'm like, I don't know. Look at the market and do the math. I'm not going to do it for you. By the time I reply, the math will be different by the time you wake up and, you know, a couple weeks from now from your coma because you hit your head walking down the stairs. I don't know how that works. You just like walked upside down, I guess. Oops. And you wake up from a coma, you read my comment, and you try it, and then you don't make any money because, oops, the market's moved on, bro. Stop asking that question. And finally, besides liking the video, you got to leave a comment because I have nothing else to read. And you got to click the video on the right side of your screen, okay? I'm gonna give you, instead of making a bad thing happen, I'm gonna make a good thing happen. If you click the video on the right side of your screen right now, you will be able to very quickly decide what to eat for dinner. You won't even have to fuss about it. You're just like, I know what I want to eat, and you'll go make it or get it. No fuss, no slouching around for hours trying to figure out if you want McDonald's or spaghetti or whatever. You'll just be able to just get it, and you'll be done, and you'll be happy. And there you go. So click the video right now.